It's the money, all sorts of interesting topics having to do with money, particularly crypto and real estate. So if those things are interesting to you, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. We've got just some absolutely killer content coming your guys' way, particularly today. This has been some content we've been super excited about since Gamma agreed to jump on the show. Corey was great at facilitating all of that. Before we jump into all that stuff, Corey, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, Corey Geary, just, a guy that's been doing real estate for the last 6-7 years, been rocking and doing well with that, and transitioned into crypto in this last, 6 months to a year, really been buckling down and learning everything about this beautiful asset class that we do call crypto, and just kind of going all in. And I want to take as many friends I can with me for the ride, and I want to learn as much as I possibly can about this technology, because I think it's absolutely revolutionary and it's going to change the world. So just super excited to be here today and with you, Dane, and obviously Gamma here. This is going to be an exciting show. I told you yesterday, I feel like a kid at Christmas waiting for this show, because this is the next evolution of my life, is learning this stuff, and it's just super exciting for me, man. I'm super stoked. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I like to talk to people who are interested in what I have to say, because it's could be dry, could be technical, but it's very important for people to understand how the underlying infrastructure of blockchain
and this might be a bit of a technical show for a lot of our viewers today. We do
try not to be too technical.
We have a lot of real estate viewers, and then we got crypto guys too. Dane's really good at like taking a technical idea and dumbing it down to like where a third grader can understand it. He's always taking what because I talk fast. And I do a lot of research in these projects, and I'll talk game theory, and then Dane's like, he'll have to regurgitate it to the audience where they can really understand it.
So a suggestion for your audience: if I say something you don't understand, then you should Google it and you should learn about it, because you try and use the correct term, and if you literally Google the word I use in blockchain, you should be able to figure out what I'm saying, and then it'll take you down the rabbit hole, and then you'll soon, 2, 3, 4 years in the future, you'll be me on YouTube talking about this stuff. That's how I started. I'm self-taught.
Really?
Yeah. Linux sysadmin. Okay. I'm self-taught. C++, Python, like learning how to do nodes. Like my first Ethereum full node was in 2017 when I didn't even know what Ethereum was. So I ran a full node because I'm like, what's this Ethereum thing? I have no idea what it is.
Love it.
Yeah, before we start, I want to say the meat and potatoes of it. We got Vets and crypto on. Bang bang, what's going on? We're grateful to have you on the show. In fact, those of you that are on, we've got a number of you here. Go ahead and comment below where you're from, your country, your state, wherever you're from. Love to know where the audience is tuning in from at this time in the morning. And as we're going through, the reason that we go live like this is so you guys have the opportunity to be able to give feedback or ask questions. So make sure that you're doing that. This is going to be a lot of meat and potatoes. We're skipping the milk and right on to the main course today. So this will be a lot of fun. We got Frank coming in from Chicago. Appreciate you tuning in, Frank. We know Frank very well. Met him at a previous Pulsechain event, which was really cool. So once again, grateful to have everybody on this morning. Shield the links, all the likes, all that type of stuff is really helpful. We got Ruben in from California. What's up, Ruben? Appreciate you jumping on. All right, Gamma. So go ahead and if you would, you started already, but give us a little bit about your background, how you ended up in crypto. Love all that type of stuff.
Sure. So I was going to say that then at Gamma Dev, that's at Gamma DevOps is my Twitter. It's also my Telegram. So you can follow me there. That'd be really awesome. And then I've been in crypto for about 6 years. So I'm self-taught developer-ish, more like developer-ish. You know what I mean? Like the only production thing I ever created was like a Telegram bot. But I mostly take software that's already developed by actual professional developers. Could be Golang, could be Rust, could be C++, like the Bitcoin client C++. It could be like Linux is like C. I take programs that are like web apps, or it could be even like a full node, and I deploy it onto a Linux server. It could be a cluster of servers, and then I fully configure that so that there's like DDoS protection and they're secure through Cloudflare is my provider that I like to use a lot. And so I've been doing that for 6 years. So 2017 March, I was finishing my MBA program, and I didn't know what I was going to do with, I don't know, the rest of my career, in quotation marks.
What
I
did
don't
you
want to have
done
a
up to
career.
that point? What did you done up to that point?
I was in the Army before then.
Really?
So I
Okay.
had actually got out of the Army in 2013-ish time frame. I was a field artillery officer, and I was a tank crewman. I mean, staff sergeant. So like I was actually a platoon sergeant before I transitioned to the dark side and became an officer. So I was on tanks, I was on field artillery, and then around 2013-ish, I got out, went into operations for billion-dollar international companies running facilities. Basically the plant manager kind of a situation, fleet of trucks, production management, like all that stuff. Which it was a great job. It was a good company and everything. And then I did my MBA, and I got out. I left that job, finished my MBA. 2017, I discovered crypto, and along that, like that whole process from like 2010 or so, I was trying to learn technology, like learning like Objective C, like Apple development, trying to make a web app, trying to run like WordPress, trying to install WordPress, trying to make websites, like all that stuff, just like fooling around, making stuff and like putting stuff onto web servers and getting it to run, and learning like Nginx, which is a reverse proxy like Apache, and like configuring Linux servers and just playing around and just learning how to like use this stuff. So
And
from
all
like
that
2000,
and all this is like you're saying, just playing around. This is like YouTube
it's for
and
fun.
just for
I
fun.
mean, doesn't everybody just configure clusters of servers and run web apps for fun?
Yeah.
Doesn't everyone do that? I mean, that's literally what I do for fun. I don't know about you guys. But yeah, I did that, and it's like I'm like what 11 years
Gamma's
in,
my hero, Dane.
13
by the
years
way.
into playing around with computers, and I've eventually started getting paid to do that kind of work.
Okay. No, I find it remarkable that I think that so many people today are, they feel like they have to go to school or get some professional certification to learn a topic or to become, really proficient in a certain area. And the fact of the matter is there's so much, we live in the age of information. There's no shortage of information. It's just a matter of going out, finding it, and applying yourself. And Gamma's an excellent example of that, which is
YouTube University.
Google, everything's free.
Everything's free.
You do not need to pay for crypto education because it's all for free. Every bit of information I have, I've never paid for a single course, and I know, I mean, a lot. I mean, there's people who know more than I do, but generally speaking, crypto markets, blockchain, how the market cycle works, how to trade and do all that, everything. It's all free. I mean, you just watch YouTube and then you read articles and then you learn it by doing. I mean, that's what I did, and it's fine. You don't need to pay somebody to learn. You can do it yourself.
Sure. No, I can respect that. We've got a number of other people in. Johnny Rocket, Game Theory in the house. Appreciate you jumping in.
Yeah, it's one of the groups I'm in.
Okay.
There's a
cool.
really awesome group of guys in Game Theory.
Do you know Vets in Crypto? Is this one of your followers?
Yeah, he DM'd me. He's in my contact list.
Okay, cool.
He DM'd me a couple times.
We've got lots of people tuning in from Canada, Vets in Crypto from America, Wayne from Tennessee. Welcome, Wayne. Great having you on. Vets in Crypto asks, are you the unknown Pulse dev that keeps giving hints to launch, asking for a friend?
Am I the unknown Pulse dev? He's not unknown. His name is Brett. It's BRETEP, Brett P. Like basically he's a Pulse dev. He's talking publicly in the Pulse dev chat. He's in the main chats. He's on Twitter posting stuff. He's not posting secret information. There's no secret information, guys. You're hearing a lot of tweets from some people, and some of it is, all of it's like publicly available information. There's no secret information being released, and whenever somebody on Twitter alludes to the Pulse dev, sometimes they're just maybe reposting information that's posted in another public group that you're not privy to, but you're not in that public group. And so they're probably just reposting what's already public for you for the first time. And it may seem like it's secret information, but it's not really. If you're in all the groups like I am, I'm in like every public group I can be in that's like focused on development and focused on these people talking about these kind of things. And I'm following this Pulse dev that's his name is Brett. Brent. It's Brett.
That's right, Brett.
Sorry, Brent or Brett. Mess up your first name. I only have a username to go by. So because it's BRETEP, right, on Twitter. Yeah. And he's a Pulse dev. He's been a Pulse dev for a long time. He's publicly speaking to people, not giving, announcements, because that's Richard's job, right? Richard gives the announcements. But what he is giving, what this Pulse dev is giving, is a little bit of context and a little bit of like confirmation of like public available information. So it's not like secret or whatever. I just make that perfectly clear.
Well, I think that if you made a profile with a picture of a cute girl, that's how you get access to the private group with all the sneak peek. That's the key.
I mean, I've asked several times, is there some private group that I should be a part of? Because if I'm not a part of it, it probably doesn't exist. And I've been, as far as I know, I've been invited to every private group that has anything to do with anything. There's Pulse Planning, which has like 100 people in it, right? And that's like literally the only private group that I'm aware of. And there could be others, of course.
Sure.
And there's like other Hexkin OG cryptos that are like groups of people that are talking, but those aren't like secret information chats where Richard's in there giving secret information.
Sure.
Right? Like I'm a day one Hexkin. Sure. Whatever. But there's private groups. There's always private groups of people who collectively put together 60, 100 people who talk about and things that they want to talk about. Pulse Planning is the only private group that's focused on, say, Hex and Pulse, specifically created by Richard and managed by the admins and all the same admins we talk about all the time. We see in all the groups. So if there's other ones, like I said, I don't know of them. I don't think anybody's secretly DMing girls on Telegram and Twitter and giving them inside information.
Hot girls.
I don't think that's happening.
Right.
But they are giving good information. They're putting a lot of information out there maybe you haven't heard before, which is all great.
From all your private groups or public private groups, whatever you want to call them, are you seeing, are we close to V3 then? Is that what you're seeing also?
It feels closer than it has been before, and we get closer every day. But from the screenshots Richard's giving and some context of, like, say, Brett or Brent, I can figure out what his real first name is.
I'll confirm it real quick so we call him the right name while you're talking.
Right, I know it's either Brett or Brent.
Right.
Seriously, it's either one of those two options.
Yeah.
And I feel bad now because I've known this dude for like over a year.
No, it's Brett. It's Brett. B-R-E-T.
Brett. See, there you are. Hey, Brett. Yeah. So yeah, Brett. He's giving a little bit of context, and it's literally just confirmation of things that you could already like know if you knew the clients like I do. If you know how to run Prism, you know how to run Geth, you know about Lighthouse, you know how about Aragon. Then he's literally just confirming like small technical details that you knew already if you already knew the client. But these people, the people he's talking to aren't, oh, I've been running clients for 3 years and I already have ran like every full node. And like, I've been on Ethereum for 2 years running the clients, like, which I have. I mean, he's talking to people who haven't done all that stuff. So he's like, hey, I have a simple question. That's kind of a technical question. And then he confirms it. It's not secret. It's like just technology. Right. And then maybe they put that into a bullet list and then they like put it on the internet and maybe it seems like inside information, but it's like not really.
It seems revolutionary to the retail consumer, but to people like you, you're like, I've known this for a year. Ever since we're forking ETH, I know this is how it's going to play out.
Yeah. Or well, more likely there's like 5 bullet points and they had to get the information from 3 or 4 different sources. They made a bullet list and it seems like awesome. I was like, well, great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that list. It's all accurate information, but it's nothing revolutionary. It's nothing secret about the information they're sharing.
So I would like to kind of get it to a 3rd grade level on what running a node validator is to our audience. How could you explain that to somebody who doesn't know anything about, and like I didn't know almost anything about it up to a few weeks ago, and I started really going down the rabbit hole, and that's why I contacted you, because I remember I've been following you for a while. I remember you've talked about this before, and I was like, man, that guy Gamma, I remember this guy. He does this, and so that's why I reached out. But like, how would you explain it to somebody
you have
nothing?
To understand it, what clients are, you have to understand basically what blockchains are. And so blockchains are a database. That's all they are.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a type of database that have a block is linked to another block that's linked to another block, right? And in a series, right, with hashes. And I don't have to get too technical, but I'm just saying it's a database. So blockchain means database. And you have the Geth client, has the consensus rules and the peer-to-peer networking, and has all the components it needs to talk to other peers, other nodes, so that it can have the database, get the database from other people, store it, and also share that database, all the blocks in the database. So ETH2, which is now the current ETH, and the Pulsechain are the same, right? So you have Pulsechain and Ethereum. They're exactly the same, basically, except there's some minor changes, which I'm not going to go into right now, because it's unnecessary information. But you have Geth. So you have Geth, and then you have the client, which is Prism for the Beacon Chain or Lighthouse. There's two of them. So you can run. Yep. You could run Lighthouse with Geth. You could run Prism with Geth. You could run Prism with Aragon, which is the other client that's with Geth and then Aragon. And the difference between these two clients was like one's the execution environment, and then one is the consensus environment, which is validators. So they're separate. So the bottom one here in my hand is Geth and Aragon, and it stores the contracts, the state of the contracts, the addresses, all the tokens that are in your wallet, like all that information is stored in Geth or Aragon. And then it's connected, merged. And by merged, we mean it's simply connected with a token, like a secret code, like a password. So they talk to each other securely on the same computer. That's what you mean by the merge. So the databases, right here, the databases aren't being merged together like before. When the merge happened on Ethereum, you had Geth, Aragon, and all these other clients. It was like 7 of them. And they were running the execution environment, which just means the contracts, account balances, like, you know what I mean? Like you're doing transactions. And it was separate because it wasn't connected to the staking, the validators. They were separate things. They had they weren't connected at all. They weren't merged together. So they were very independent. They were, the Ethereum network was just operating like no problem. Miners were creating the blocks at that time. And then in September, the merge happened. So the miners were taken out of the equation so that no miner could, they changed the difficulty basically to made it so that it's just impossible for a miner to add a block to the network. And then what they did was they just went, okay, great. Now the miners can't add blocks at that exact same block. The validators for the Pulsechain were now putting blocks into the execution environment, right? Just creating blocks. So you have these hundreds of thousands of validators that are running on Ethereum now, and those are being managed basically and stored in a separate database called the Beacon Chain, which is a separate database than all the database that the contracts and the account balances is stored. There's 2 separate databases, but at this time they're on the same computer. So in theory, they could be merged basically, but because they were separate before, they're still separate, but they're separate on the same computer. So you have the validators. You start a validator with 32 Ethereum. On Pulsechain, it's like 32 million Pulse. You get activated. Now you're an active validator. Because you're on the same computer, you can read and you know what all the transactions are that haven't been put into blocks yet, all the valid transactions. And now your validator, when it's your turn, effectively randomly, you know what I mean? So your validator comes around to your turn You see the transactions in the mempool, which is just the memory pool of the transactions in Geth or Aragon. And it reads those and it just takes those, it takes a copy and says, okay, all these are valid. Here's a block. It's my turn to be a valid. It's my turn to publish a block. So I publish a block. And then all the validators on the network, they just confirm that block. And they go, okay, great. And then it just gets a new block happens, and then another validator does a block, and then all the validators like confirm that, and like we're good. And then every so often, it's called an epoch. And off the top of my head, I don't know have the exact like approximate time
6
of an
minutes
epoch
or something, if I'm not mistaken. I think
yeah, maybe I have to Google it. I'll have to Google it because I'm talking about this a lot more now. Yeah. But so there's an epoch, and I forget how many minutes it is, but there's all these blocks are put into an epoch, and then they're all valid, and then it's finalized, and now it's locked in. So all these blocks are in there. They finalize the epoch, and then now it's locked in, and they move on to the next epoch, and that just keeps on going. And there's no miners anymore because proof of work is no longer a thing on Ethereum, and now these validators do it. So there's two different clients. And they each have their own database. They do different things, right? And it's very important to understand that it's two different things when you want to understand how the Ethereum network structure of Ethereum works, because people get confused and they think that like there was actually like a merging of the databases, or like they get confused like, why are there two clients? Why do we need two clients? I'm like, well, because there's two databases. I mean, that's the reason why you have to have two. Because that's the way Ethereum like emerged or like was developed. Because
I look at rid of Geth jobs. They both have their own job that they have to complete, and that's the way I think of it. And one can't do both jobs, but they have to be done at the same time.
Well, they could technically do both, but the way Ethereum is like it's running right now, it's been running for 7 years. You can't just shut down Ethereum and do this huge hard fork, and then the network is down for a week. You can't do that. It's running. It's like it needs to stay live. So Aragon and Geth, which there are two clients, you still talk to those same clients after the merge. You talking to that client didn't change. Like you didn't have to do anything special.
It's staying the same. It's the same. Yeah.
The same. Yeah. And all it changed in the back end. So the users didn't see any change. And some people were like mad because they were thinking that somehow the fees were going to get super cheap. Network is going to get really fast. I was like, no, they didn't change anything on purpose because they wanted the network to still function. When they made this huge proof of stake upgrade, they wanted it so all the users and all the dApps and every exchange and everybody that's connected to Ethereum, they didn't want all that infrastructure to just break when they merged.
Yeah.
So Geth, which is the client that I like to use, it's Go. Aragon is Go too, so you can use either. A lot of ways, Aragon is better.
Can we?
So I need to play
can we touch on that just for a second? Because I'm learning, obviously, going deep on this. Why would one choose one over the other? Like when I'm choosing my clients, and is there going to come a time where I'm going to? Why would I choose Geth or why would I choose Aragon for my execution? Okay. Or like in consensus, why would I choose Prism over Lighthouse or Lighthouse over Prism? Is one
there's a couple differences.
Is one easier to operate CLL, command line?
Yeah. So programming languages, I'll start there. So like Geth is Golang, Aragon is Golang, Lighthouse is Rust, and Prism is Golang.
Yep.
So I like to use Golang. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use Golang because I know how to use it. It's fine. So for me, Prism is my choice for the consensus client, which is for the validators, because it's Golang. Although Lighthouse is perfectly fine if you want to play with Rust, or if you want to be more decentralized and actually use a client that's not the one that like most people use, would be Prism. So you want to use Lighthouse maybe to add decentralization to the network.
It reduces your slash chances of you being slashed too, right? No. By being more decentralized. If there's a bug in the main what everyone's using. I've been reading that if there's that
well,
bug
I mean, I guess if there's a bug in Prism and then all the Prism clients go down, then you're using Lighthouse and you stay up, which is what I'm talking about, of like just keeping the network up. If your computer is down, so one thing that people need to understand is, unlike the prior Pulsechain where it was going to be 33 validators and basically an enterprise level, like, you know, you have a data center and you're validating for Pulsechain, but you have like a row of servers that are supercomputers to run the network. Like, that's not the case anymore because we're Ethereum, fork of Ethereum. You can run it in your house. Make Pulsechain as decentralized as possible. Make it impossible for Pulsechain to ever go down, because you have a server. Like, I have a desktop under my desk. It runs the Prism. It runs Prism and it runs Geth for Goerli Ethereum, and I have no problem at all. So I can do the same thing with Pulsechain. I run Prism for a Pulsechain, and then I run Geth for Pulsechain, and I run in my house, and it's not connected to like a data center. If an AWS data center goes down, it doesn't affect me at all because I'm like in my house. Like, the only thing that affects me is if my power goes out or my internet goes out, which is obviously can happen. But if your computer goes down, if you lose the internet, you lose power a week, it doesn't matter, because you're just not earning fees. You're not getting kicked off the network. You're not getting slashed where you're like losing all your money and you're like freaking out. Oh my God, what's going on? No, here's an example. There's a mainnet validator on Ethereum mainnet that went live in September, has never been on, and they can literally turn on their computer and start validating right now, and they would just start earning fees.
Like, that's the only difference. You wouldn't lose what's staked or anything like that.
Yeah,
you
I mean,
would just not be earning
endless.
fees.
I mean,
you have
eventually
to get slashed.
So you start with 32 Ethereum, and once you get down to like 16, then you get kicked out of the validator set. But that takes like a really long time if you're just shut off. Like this validator, like I'm talking about, it's like October, November, December, January, right? We're like 4 months in, and they could just turn on. Now, here's one thing that I was actually talking on a voice chat yesterday. Here's how you can really screw yourself.
Now, really quick before you do that, Vets in Crypto had a good question. I think there's a good place to address it. So, what will it take hardware, software, and PLS required to be a PLS?
Oh, okay,
validator?
Sure. So you could be a validator with like 32 gigs of RAM, say like a gaming computer, like the regular old gaming computer you'd use to play games. So you're gonna have like at least 32 gigs of RAM, and then you're gonna have the CPU for that. So 8 core, 16 core, whatever. It's like, it's fine. It's not CPU intensive. It's really memory intensive to be a validator. So RAM is more important. So you want to have like 32, maybe 64 gigs of RAM. And then you have, 8 core, 16 core. You're going to want to have like a 1.5 terabyte hard drive, because there's one of the difference between Aragon and Geth is Geth takes about 600-700 gigabytes. And apparently Aragon is like 400 or 500. It's like less. Now, I don't have the exact numbers like in front of me, but because I haven't used Aragon, but it's less data. And also for an archive node, which is important for developers and teams, if you run Aragon, then the data you use for an archive node is a lot less, because Geth takes like 12 terabytes of the database for an archive node, but Aragon doesn't take that much. It's still in the, terabytes, but it's not as much. But as if you're just a regular, like a dude at home wants to be a validator, you need to have 32 gigs of RAM, maybe 8 cores, like not a supercomputer. 1.5 terabyte hard drive is going to be more than enough. You need 32 million pulse right now, unless Richard goes on live stream tomorrow and says that it's some other number. The number I know about and the one I've confirmed with people like multiple times is 32 million pulse. And so added the average sacrifice price, just, taking that as, because we don't have anything else to go over, that's like $4,000 or $5,000 to be a validator. And then you collect the fees. And then when you set it up, those fees are not like locked into a contract. they go to a wallet that you choose, and they're like liquid. So you like at the end of like every epoch or whatever, every day, you get your Pulse payment for being a validator, and then you can do whatever you want with them. Now, here's the thing about the staked Pulse, just like Ethereum, you can't withdraw yet because the Shanghai hard fork was scheduled for March. It might be pushed back. I heard it could be pushed back to September, but that doesn't impact Pulsechain launching, for one thing, which is something people were really concerned about. It doesn't stop Pulsechain from deploying, because when Ethereum does their hard fork, then Pulsechain will just do their hard fork. Like, no big deal. Right. And that's been confirmed by Brent. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I could pronounce his name correctly. And yeah, he's confirmed that in like multiple channels. Right. And that's one of the things that's being tweeted a lot. And that's true. Like, no big deal. I mean, we still have like no information on when testnet will go live or when mainnet will go live, but we're not waiting on Ethereum to do Shanghai, which is like a good information to have.
It is,
like,
yeah.
If they postpone it to September, we're not waiting on Shanghai. It's just not ready to go yet.
So,
right?
So if Pulsechain were to launch tomorrow and you want to be a validator, you have to go lock your 32 million Pulse, and you can't get that out until the Shanghai update. However,
Yes.
you can get your rewards, and your rewards are liquid. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So if you're a validator, you're probably going to do it for long term anyway.
Right.
And just know that like down the way, it'll be unlocked and you can get it out whenever you want. But just right now, you can't. But your rewards will go to your wallet that's liquid. So your earnings you get to use.
Okay,
so your 32 million Pulse is locked in the contract, but what you get in earnings, maybe you want to sell that on the market to help pay for whatever, is fine. You're good. It's like just sitting in your wallet. You can use it for whatever you want.
Let's circle back.
What's the node required to be a validator? Yeah, I kind of answered that already.
Yeah, so that's the kind of the hardware requirements. Now somebody wants to be a validator.
Sure.
Obviously,
that's the same hardware requirements.
You recommend running Linux, obviously.
Yes.
I remember when I was talking to you, I was like, hey, should I wait for, like an Avado type platform, or should I run it on Windows? Or you're like, no, Linux. I was like, well, I don't know command line. You're like, learn it.
You just learn it. Just learn Linux.
I was like, okay.
Sure. You can run in Docker, which is pretty easy, or you can just.
Will there be a Docker for Pulsechain?
Yeah. The Pulse Geth had Docker, and then you can get Docker for the validator client too. So you basically would be running 2 Docker containers. Okay. And so they'll have Docker set up. We can use that, I'm sure. We'll know for sure when testnet actually goes live. But because they were using Docker for V2B, I'm sure Docker will be set up for
the Docker
for V3.
When I was watching the videos on ETH, the Docker makes it so much easier. The updates are automatic, and for somebody who's at home who wants to do this and go down this rabbit hole, the Docker just makes it so much more easier.
Yeah, is Docker just the software
updates aren't automatic? So, I'll say this: the updates aren't automatic, but it's like a single line of code,
right?
And you just shut it down. With Docker, you shut down the container, and then you just boot it back up again, and then it pulls the current update, installs it, and runs.
Right.
And it's super easy to update.
I love that.
And Docker is a software that you install on your computer. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's a software. It's a type of program that runs on Linux, and it just containerizes your program and makes it like its own thing. Well, like I have my camera, but so you can have a separate container that runs Geth, a separate container that runs Prism, a separate container that runs other programs. And what's really great about it is it's containerized and it's inside its own little isolated little bubble on your computer. So that's really great for security.
Correct. Right.
Okay. What are the so let's do a quick recap. So if you want to run a validator on Pulsechain in a node, then you need some of the basic criteria we talked about previously in the video. Go ahead and rewind it if you want to go over that information. And then you're going to need to figure out Linux, how to run and operate it. There's Docker that you can download on your computer to make updates more streamlined and easy. And so that's where we're at so far. Is that accurate?
And thousands.
And then I can go into how do you start a validator? Like, how do you deposit, and what's the general guidelines for that?
Yeah, let's do that. And then later in the show, let's get into it. I'm interested in the yield potential. I'd love to talk about what you're getting on Ethereum. I think I know the answer to that, and kind of will speculate a little bit about what that might look like on Pulsechain, why somebody might, consider being a validator type of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, on Ethereum, you're getting somewhere between 3 to 6% a year.
Annually, right?
Yeah, but it's based on transaction volumes too. I mean, talking about full blocks, so like full maxed out network, then you're getting 4 or 5% yield. So I mean, you're getting a yield. If you're already just going to hold your pulse anyway for the bull market, you can run a validator, get a little bit on top, because you're going to be able to get it out anyway whenever you want after Shanghai. So that's not a problem.
Right.
So it's a great place to put it, and you can support the network.
Do you anticipate the yield being different on Pulsechain, or do you think it'll be the same?
It'll be less than what you're getting on Ethereum, because the transaction volumes are going to, so I'm just going to go out there on a limb, and don't torch me in saying that Pulsechain is not going to have maxed out blocks, the first block that exists, right? I mean, it's going to take a little while for Pulsechain to ramp up.
Right.
I don't think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
So it's going to be a little low on the yield side, but then it'll ramp up as we get more transaction volume, more projects are launched on there, more people are using the network. And then as the transaction volume ramps up, then your yield will go up, because it's directly tied to, there's no inflation. Well, technically there is inflation now. I have to stop myself, because prior there wasn't any inflation. And with the Ethereum, there is inflation. So you're getting a little bit of inflation, plus you're getting the tips that the users are using. And those will be pretty small if we have empty blocks. Yeah, I mean, say if a block is half filled, then the users won't have to use they won't be tipping a lot. There's a basic transaction fee. Maybe we're paying 5 or 10 GUI for a transaction, relatively cheap compared to Ethereum. So you're getting something. So you're going to be getting Pulse in your wallet every day. That's just extra, that you wouldn't be getting otherwise. But it won't be some life-changing money where you're going to retire off of just a yield from being a Pulsechain validator in the first month. Let's be reasonable about that. But it accumulates, right? And what's great is if you set up 1 validator, 10 validators, then you collect all this Pulse, then you can compound by just saving up 32 million Pulse, and then add another validator, and then save up 32 million Pulse, and then add another validator. Now you're compounding, and you weren't going to sell the Pulse anyway, because why would anyone sell Pulse, right? Nobody's selling any Pulse.
Never.
No, of course not. No, but that's a strategy that people can use to get yield that's trustless, right? Because we're all about that here in this community. And you have the keys to your own Pulse. You're dealing with a smart contract, and you're managing the hardware. So as long as you keep your computer online, connected to the internet, and then you're collecting that yield, right?
And that's
a
what
little
I
bit
love
of inflation plus tips.
Yeah.
Every day.
You're providing a value, a service to the blockchain and getting paid. Now, it's interesting you say it's going to be less. I've heard other community members say it's going to be more, because not only you can correct me if I'm wrong, the transactions determine the yield, but also how many people are participating as a validator also determines the yield. And being that Pulsechain won't have a lot of participation out of the gate, that I heard it could be 2 or 3 times X.
It could be, hypothetically speaking. We know we're just running numbers, right? So you have
we're always
a certain amount of yield.
Anyways. None of this is financial advice.
No, I'm saying, okay, yeah, that's a good point. So depending on the inflation, you are randomly assigned based on there's 100 validators on the network, then your turn's going to come around a lot. And so you're going to get a lot of transactions. Right. You're going to get a lot of blocks, and you're going to get a lot of the inflation that's created. But if there's 100,000, then you're going to get a lot less. So it depends on how much participation there is. And what I'd like for people, everybody, to run a validator. You can do it in your house. Great. I mean, I'm probably not going to run 100, because I don't have 3.2 billion Pulse just laying around that I want to put into a.
Not yet, Gamma. Not yet.
No. I'm just saying. I mean, I don't want to, lock up my whole stack or anything, but, running 100 validators probably isn't something I want to do, but 10, almost everybody, I mean, Pulse isn't that expensive, but if you're going to hold $5,000 worth for the next bull run, then you can put that onto a validator, like a single validator, and then you can earn some yield while you're waiting for the bull market. Like, it's no problem. We could have thousands and thousands of validators, like, no problem. But people need to figure out, take out that computer that you use for gaming, install Linux on it.
It does take a little bit of homework on the users' end. I've just been going down the rabbit hole of learning Linux, how to learn command line, and I'm learning it. I'm just watching video after video, and there's thousands of videos on Linux on YouTube. I mean,
it's not hard. So, and here's another part to it. So you have the hardware, you have the internet in your house, because we're talking, everybody's got the internet almost. I mean, there's people who don't have the internet, but for the most part, people have the internet. And they have a computer. Maybe they have a gaming computer they can use, so then they can install Linux on it. They can install Prism and Geth, which really isn't that hard. There's instructions. I can help you walk through it, and I'm sure I'll be doing voice calls and YouTubes and stuff during testnet to help people learn how to do it. It's not that hard. Don't be scared. But if you want to be a validator, you have 32 million Ethereum, or you have 32 million Pulse in your wallet. You're like, I want to be a validator. Okay, great. I have a computer. I downloaded the program. Now what do I do? Okay, well, now you got to take that 32 million Pulse, put it into the contract, and then tie it back. So the way Ethereum works is you're not tying it back to, like, say, a MetaMask wallet. What you're doing is you're making a separate wallet with, like, 24-word seed that you generate the validator keys as part of. So, like, you have, like, a completely separate 24-word seed phrase that can be generated by Prism, which also acts as a wallet. And
right. So you have to treat it as such, protect it with all your other assets, because they'd have access to that validator. So you got to protect those keys like anything else.
So, you get this 24-word seed phrase that you protect, put on a piece of paper, stamp it in the steel, just like you do a hardware wallet or anything. And then you say you want to do one validator, or even 10. It doesn't matter. You can do 10 at a time. So you have the 24-word seed. They have a website, like Richard showed. There's a how to be a validator, kind of like walkthrough,
Launchpad,
right? And it gives you, like, the software you can use, and then gives you some instructions on how to do it. And you might need a little bit of help, but that's fine. You can just ask me. I guess I'll help. And then you create the wallet. You generate a deposit file. So it's like you would generate like 10 deposit files, and then what you at least with Ethereum, what you do is they have a launch pad, and what it does is you say, oh, I want to do 10 validators, and then it gives you a command that says, okay, run this in your command. And so it's like basically Prism sh 10, and then it gives you output of like 10 deposit keys, right? Like Prism deposit CL I, and then blah blah, and then and then like, where do you want to put it? And then it generates 10 deposit addresses, deposit files. Then you upload those to the website, because that's publicly available information, literally just the information that, like, you're going to put on the blockchain anyway. So it's a secret, right? So, but what it does is you upload that to the website, you connect your MetaMask to that website, and then since it already has the deposit information, it generates the transaction for you. So when you deposit your 32 million Pulse into each one of those, it's a separate transaction. And then now you have your 24-word seed phrase that's separate from your MetaMask. And so now your 32 million Ethereum, or your 32 million Pulse is tied back to each one of those validators. And now you generate basically a key, a private key that you're going to put into the validator so that it can, like, validate blocks. And that's tied back to your 32 Pulse. And then later on, like down the road after Shanghai, you use the same 24-word seed phrase. You generate a withdrawal, like, transaction for your validators. And then you can do a transaction with your MetaMask on the website to basically withdraw the 32 million Pulse back into your wallet. And it's like separate thing. So you deposit it, is one thing. It generates keys that you can put into a server, and it doesn't have the withdrawal information at all. There's no information that could be available for anybody to withdraw your pulse, but you have your private keys, like signatures, basically, so that you can be a validator, because it needs to have private keys, so it needs to sign the blocks. So the basic information that it needs can be on a server, it can be on your local computer, or it could be whatever. And then later on, you kept your 24 word seed phrase in your safe, right? Very safe. And then you go back to your own secure computer, and then you can make your withdrawal file, right? You can get your withdrawal transaction created, and then you can withdraw your 32 million pulse from the contract, down the road. But you can only do that if you have your 24 word seed phrase. And then you can also create more validators. Like if you wanted to create 10 more validators down the road, then you say, okay, no problem. I want to create validator, 11 through 20. And then it gives you the deposit information for those 11 through 20. You go through the exact same process, upload it to the website, connect your MetaMask, deposit it. Now you have 32 million to pulse into not only, 1 through 10, which is really 0 through 9, but whatever. Okay. And then basically now you had 10, now you have 20, and then you put those onto your server, and now you have 20 validators running your server. And it could be a remote server, it could be a local computer. I would recommend doing everything locally, like just on a local computer that you have physical access to. Yeah. And it's also decentralized instead of using a data center.
Right.
I would, you know what I mean? Because Ethereum is set up so that you don't have to run it into a data center. Not like prior Pulse, like I said before, the prior Pulse setup for the network was 33 validators with some backups, and they needed to be these supercomputers, like 256 RAM, 128 core monsters that are just processing the entire everything. With Ethereum, the way Ethereum is set up, you have like 100,000 validators that have 20,000 servers. And they just randomly get assigned, and they're in people's houses. Some are in data centers, and they're just scattered throughout like the entire world. And as long as more than 67% of the validators are online, roughly, you can finalize the epochs, which is every 6 minutes or every 30 minutes or some number, I forget. I have to look that up. But like at the end of the epoch, you have to have more than 67% of the validators need to be like online, attesting to the blocks to get it finalized, which is actually really easy to have, because you can have a huge amount of validators offline. Like you can have 20% of the validators offline and the network still functions fine. Now, if you only have 100 validators, that's a huge problem, because now you have 20 validators offline, and now you're like, ooh, this is getting pretty close to, this is the 80%. Oh, if we lose another 10%, we're going to be screwed. We don't want that to happen. But if you're talking about 10,000 or 100,000 validators, and it's very decentralized and across the entire world, the likelihood that you're going to have even 30% of the validators offline is very low. So Ethereum really is, and Pulsechain, because we're forking Ethereum, is kind of wants you to be a validator. You need to be a validator for the network. And so you want to have it in houses, churches, workplaces, like everywhere you can put a validator. You should be a validator, even if you do one, and you can earn some yield, and you can add that number, right? Yours adds, and then the likelihood that a bad actor could come along, take up with 32 million pulse each, a significant amount of the validators to bring the network down. Like that's going to take a lot of money, and that takes a lot of hardware. Even though you can put 500 validators on a computer, now you're going to have a database like on my like that's behind me in my little background. Right now, you have to have a data center. Now you're going to have a lot of computers, but then the more importantly, it's like $5,000 a pop for a validator, $4,000 a pop for a validator. And if you're a bad actor, meaning if you're just offline, it's not going to affect it. But if you do other things, then you can get slashed and you get kicked off the network.
So really quick, we'll go into slashing in just a second. I think that's probably a good place to end this. We're gonna jump off in about 6 minutes.
Sure.
So just like I think you just answered this question. So as you wanted to do more validators, you need to scale your hardware, correct?
Well, I mean, if you say you start with 32 gigs of RAM, you could run easily like 10, 20 validators. So like 10 validators is going to be 50K. Okay. So if you're putting $50,000 into being a validator with 10, with 32 gigs of RAM, you're probably fine. But if you want to do like 100 and you're putting like $500,000 into validators, then you're probably going to have the money to scale up to like 64 gigs of RAM for your computer. But if you're going to be like a single validator or like 10 validators, 32 gigs of RAM is fine. Just a normal everyday computer that even a laptop technically would work. As long as it had a decent amount of memory. I mean, I wouldn't recommend a laptop, but you could do it technically.
Okay.
At least for one validator if you really wanted to.
Okay, excellent. And then Johnny Rocket, this is a good place to end. He wants to touch on slashing. So go ahead and explain slashing briefly and then talk about, the details.
Sure. Yeah, so they have slashing, but it's mostly the way you can get slashed in Ethereum is if you double sign. So here's one thing that could happen to people is you have a computer A and you've been validated on computer A, but then now you want to upgrade your computer to computer B. So what you want to do is you want to basically turn off the clients for computer A and you want to wait 30 minutes, 45 minutes, amount of time that's like more than one epoch, maybe two, between having computer A running and then computer B running. And what you do is you move your 24 seed, you regenerate your validator keys on that new computer, and then you just start up your client. And as long as you didn't have them run at the same time or within the same epoch, then you're not going to get slashed. It's not a problem.
But you will get slashed if you do have them run at the same time.
Yeah. So there's one issue that was a long time ago. They fixed it, but like some dude on mainnet actually had two clients on the same computer running, and he got slashed and kicked off the network and lost like 10 Ethereum because you start with 32 Ethereum, and then he got like within hours he's slashed all the way down to like 16 Ethereum in the staking contract and kicked off the network. And he can't join the network at all. All he can do is withdraw his like 15 or 16 Ethereum when withdrawals are out. So he's done. At least that validator. But if he had 10 validators on the same computer, he would have had the same problem. So I don't know if it was 1, 10, whatever. But the point is, he was running two clients on the same computer that were double signing. And so Prism did an update, and they made it so that wouldn't happen again. So you can't accidentally screw yourself by running two clients double signing on the same computer. But because obviously software is hard, right? That's the meme. and so there was a bug. I mean, the guy shouldn't have been running two clients, but also the program shouldn't have allowed him to run two clients. So they fixed that. So they check for that now. So the program won't let you screw yourself, which is great. But that doesn't keep somebody from running the same keys on computer A as opposed to a computer B. And if they do that, then those validators that are on that computer are going to get slashed. You're going to lose 10, Ethereum, and you're going to get kicked off the network, and then you have to withdraw your money. And if you wanted to validate, you'd have to redeposit 32 million Pulse, right? It's not 32, it's 32 million, which is going to be basically the same thing. So 32 million versus 32. So it'd basically be 16 million, right? You get slashed and Pulse down to 16 million, kicked off the network. Then you'd have to like withdraw, make a new 24-word seed phrase, make new validators, redeposit your Pulse again with 32 million of Pulse, and then start all over again.
Are there any other scenarios where someone should be worried about being slashed?
So I mean, that one could happen to people, and the thing that most people worry about is like, what if I lose power, and what if I lose the internet? And don't worry about that. Your computer can be off for a week, and you're not going to get slashed where you're like losing a lot of money. It's effectively, you're not going to earn fees during that period of time, and you might like lose a little bit of money. It's like a trickle. It's like a little trickle. But if you're already validated and you already earned enough to offset a little bit of a penalty for not being online. And it's like, it's a little trickle. Like, don't even worry about it. You can move from house to house. Like, I can move from here, shut down my computer, and then put it in my car and drive across town and then start it back up from scratch. And I'm like, fine. Like, I'm not going to get double slashed because it's going to take me, an hour to do that. So my one computer will be offline during that whole time. And then I'm not going to be double signing. And so that's perfectly fine. That's the thing that mostly people were worried about. Like, what? Oh my God, what if I lose the internet or my power? I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. Just turn the thing back on. My Goerli laptop, like my client here, so the client sometimes shut down. So you have to check it like once a day. Just like make sure the thing's running. And then when it's not running, you're like, okay, great, reboot, upgrade, update your computer, because I always update my computers whenever they have to do reboot. But you don't even have to do that really. And then just turn it back on, start the programs back up, and now you're back in business. You're like, okay, no, it's not a problem.
Okay, that's pretty easy. Yeah.
It's like a 0.1 Goerli a day or like a week or something. It's like not that much.
Yeah.
But there was a bunch of validators. It's like 200,000, 300,000 validators on Goerli. So I'm sharing that reward with like a lot of people.
Right. Cool. Well, this is great. I mean, we could talk about this for 5 more hours, I feel like. We'll have to do a follow-up show. There's lots more questions.
I think a follow-up show will be good around when testnet goes live.
Yes.
We do a follow-up show, because then I'll be deep in the weeds too. I'll be running my validator at that time. So I'm sure I'll have a lot more questions and a lot more digging. Yeah. And that would be a good time to continue the conversation.
Yeah. So one thing I'll say is, some of you guys
that have commented that we haven't got to some of your questions, Gamma, if you've got time, or we'll work with you to get the answers, and we can post them in the comments on the show too.
Sure. So one thing I'm going to say is at Gamma DevOps is my Twitter handle and also my Telegram handle. And I do regular spaces. So if people had like questions, I could do a space on Twitter. I don't really have a YouTube. We were actually talking about doing a Telegram channel, because I had a Telegram group before, but I deleted it. And so when testnet comes live, I'll probably start another one of those, because doing VCs in my own Telegram group is kind of something I'll probably need to do. But mostly Twitter spaces now. So please follow me on Twitter. You can at me questions you have. And then if I have enough questions to make it worthwhile, then I can do like an hour or 2 hour Twitter space and answer some more technical questions about whatever hex Pulsechain. And then that's fine. Like once a day, I don't even mind doing 1 or 2 hours a day. This is my full-time job. I do crypto for full-time for like 2 years now.
How cool. Okay.
I love it.
No, we appreciate you. So yeah, you guys make sure that if you like this content, follow Gamma. He's been extremely helpful to Corey and I primarily. Corey, we're going to run our own validators. It'll be fun to learn this part of crypto. And we appreciate you being on the show, Gamma. This has been excellent. So thank you.
Cool. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
No problem. Like, anytime.
Yep.
Cool.
Any other YouTubers want me to do an interview with them, I'm perfectly fine doing that. Just schedule a few days in advance.
Awesome. Cool, guys. Well, have a good day. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you later.
Cool. Thank you.